Okay, so here we are, a couple hours later, and I've gone through and added a couple other rooms. I've also added some other types of entities that we've discussed, and all the way up through some cube maps and stuff to get proper reflections and changes in light within the level. And I've also saved this new level onto the support files of the disk, 4 rooms VMF. So either go ahead and let's see if your map looks anything similar to this, or if you just want to optimize another map or the old map we were started with, the 2 rooms, or open up this map off the DVD and optimize along. If you do open up this guy, you'll notice that if we were to compile right now, probably going to take, I don't know, depending on your hardware, anywhere from 10 minutes to half an hour or something to compile, mostly through the viz process. Our light should go pretty quick. Our BSP should go really quick because it's not that big of a level. But you might note some serious hangups in that viz process. Let's see what's new. We added our control points for day to feet. We updated the textures, obviously. It kind of went for this 2-story kind of slat wood interior with some brushes coming out, like maybe that 2nd story at one point caved in or was burned out or something, and now we've set up shop with our turrets to defend against our enemies. I've added 6 players instead of 4, just, I don't know, in case you want some serious mayhem. Some displacements in the corners, some elevation. Basically what they're going to do, they're actually purposeful. You'll have your turrets, you'll probably be a little too tall. If you're standing in front of your turrets, you'll be a little short. Oop, not that short. Be a little short in-game without them, which is good. We don't want these things to just be perfect little things you can stand behind and not worry too much. You want it to be a little difficult. You have to get back a little bit up on the displacement to get some height and shoot through. You're obviously more of a target that way. What else? We kept our ladder. We kept our info nodes. We added some different lights, some different fixtures, and we got some kind of red accent lights in here. Just a trigger zone for our middle flag we got on top of the post, the pillar in the middle there. Other side's basically a mirror. We do have some Funk Fizzbox brushes that can kind of be tossed around, shot around the map, as well as a Funk Breakable. We have a couple different breakable objects here. You'll see we've actually given it a center block. Again, material type, you could change that to wood or anything else you want. And I've also made it pretty strong. There's a couple different pieces. Something that people just can't blast through in a few shots. It's still not going to take long, especially for a machine gunner or something, but something to make it a little more difficult to get through. But we also didn't want it, or I didn't want it to not be obvious. So put a little crack in the wall just so you could kind of say, oh yeah, I could probably shoot through this. So it'll be an alternate way to get to this other area here that off from our central hallway, we've kind of put these 2 stairs coming up. So on either side, you can now go up a few stairs to a little corridor, open up a prop rotating door, come inside, we have another control point flag, barricade and some boxes that maybe you could get behind, some areas to defend. And once you break open this wall, you come in here and you're right at top, and you can not really, these aren't breakables, these would. I mean, also change those up to be from ramps to kind of wood slats. I don't know, looked a little more natural to me. You can't quite shoot right at that flag. People get blocked. So there's some kind of cool angles and stuff in here, although it's obviously a small map. But we're no longer a fight yard map, so I hope that people have forgiven me who were upset with the fight yard. But, they are the basic maps, and you want to build them to kind of get to know some strategy. Yeah, cube maps in here, which we'll have to build once we compile. We adjusted some other things, new textures, obviously, on the floor and the turrets, and some different lights. We actually I added a skybox, just a 2D skybox with kind of a tinted light environment. I changed that skybox to be, I can't remember, maybe day 103, kind of a dusk setting, so you get a little bit of a greenish, bluish green, dark kind of glow in the hallway here with our blue lights still kind of angled. We took out the fixtures, just put blue lights down in the middle of the hallway to give a little accent lighting, which make those cube maps really important when we have different colors blending into each other. Didn't really do any, smoothing or anything like that on textures, but other than the node draw, the next best friend is going to be the prop detail. And we've seen prop detail every time we've tied a brush to an entity. Prop details are areas that we define as being details, not being key structures in the game that are going to block visibility. Because when viz computes, when that compile process of viz does its thing, what it's doing is actually compiling. It's drawing lines from each area of your map to each other area in your map determining what areas are visible from anywhere, any one point. From here, can I see into that other room? No, but I can from here. So we can set up objects to be visible or not to that process. And although it may seem like we want everything to be visible, we really don't. It's going to cause our level to be divided up into many more what are called viz leaves. The point of these viz leaves is to divide our map up into areas that can't be seen by other areas, so the engine doesn't always have to render the rest of the world when you're standing at a given spot. And this is great for the most part, especially with large levels of geometry, or when you're have big levels with big open spaces and then other rooms and stuff where you don't need to have the engine render your big football stadium on the other side of your map when you're standing in the locker room on the other side of the school or whatnot. Let's go through and identify some areas that we think are details. Right away, I don't want Viz to have to calculate the bouncing of all these guys. So anything that's not like a fizz box, obviously those are already function entities, but these guys are fizz boxes, these guys are breakables. But these other pieces of wood that I got on the side here, just details really. Func details, which we'll assign these to, are still going to be solid. You can still walk on them. They're still going to cast shadows. They'll act like ordinary brushes other than the fact that they won't block visibility for the Viz compiler. So these guys, they do block some visibility, and it's not that big of a level, so we could keep them not in the func detail sector. But depending on the size of your level, you want to turn most things that as just being details into these func detail brushes. So let's just do this room for now. We grab all these items, these brushes that we know aren't going to block visibility, tie them to an entity, Control T, and the default is func details. That's all we have to do. They have now been converted to func details. Make sure it's applied. Close that up. Let's save this guy. 4 rooms. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and give it a compile. Let's just play back and see what it looks like. We're going to check out a couple really useful tools to help us determine where we should focus our optimization, called Show Budget and Map Wireframe. And in order to run those properly, we don't want any other applications or as few other applications as possible running in the background, including Hammer, which is going to suck up a lot of resources. And I'll tell you, we're compiling here a lot faster than I did when I compiled it before. We just switched those to func details. It also is important to mention that as we're talking about cheap and expensive, cheap versus expensive, props and stuff like this have to do with playback when people are playing your game, not with compile. Even though they might affect our compile times, or they definitely will. Typically, compile processes are referred to as free in-game because those processes have already been completed. So although we might be annoyed that we have to, have these 10-minute compiles on some bigger levels or hour compiles on some really big levels, playback speed is really what's important. Okay, looks like we're done pretty quick.